Okay, so I'm going to be talking about using photography for mushroom identification. Like I said, Steve probably already went over a lot of the stuff, so it might be redundant. So I'll kind of brush through that sort of stuff quickly. But you'll you don't realize how important it is to get very clear photos of the different features. I thought you said that red light. Oh, there it is. Very clear features of the different parts of the mushrooms here, just so that you can identify it in the different groups. And the reason why I say fungi without gills or pores instead of like Ascomyces is because there's some weirdos in the group where gilled fungi are supposed to be that don't have gills. So, yeah, so I'm just going to pretty much basically go over what you want for each group, because staining is really important even, and how this attaches. You see how this one right here in particular is showing this kind of rusty color here? Those are the spores. So that can help you with identification just by seeing this. If you didn't get a spore print, like, crap, I didn't get a spore print on this one. It's already dead. Well, you can look back at your photos and you can see, look at that beautiful kind of rusty ring on it. And that'll help you out. All right, so we'll start with gilled mushrooms first, okay? So, of course, you want to get detailed pictures of the cap. Don't, like, take a picture from 10 feet away and, like, you know, what's this mushroom? Because for the most part, unless if it's a giant puffball, we're not going to really know what it is. And also, even with all this knowledge, we still might not know what it is. We're identifiers, but we're not perfect. We're human, and we don't know all of the different species, or genera even. Gills. Obviously, the gills are very important to note in gilled mushrooms because some of them are wavy, some of them are crowded, some of them are close together, very tight. The annulus ring, cortina, or lack of those features are very important in identification. The stipe, entire mushroom, you know, the stipe, the stem. Getting a photo of it in its entirety. So you might want to get multiple photos if you want. The more photos, the better, although they give you a 20 photo limit. You know, in situ is very important. You get people who like will cut it, and they'll just have a picture of it in their hand, and they're like, "What is this?" And they'll show the cap and the gills and the annulus ring. But if we don't see it in situ, and they don't know if they got it on the ground or if they got it on a log, it's not helpful. It could be, you know, it can take it from. If you have this situation, you could take it from family to genus to species just by knowing the situation. And the staining. The staining, of course, is really important. And I'll go over on how you can tell that. So as you can see how I displayed these mushrooms here, this is a really good classic style where you can see the gills. You can see the shape of the gills, how crowded they are. You can see nice clear pictures of the cap. The whole stipe with the mycelium at the base there. And so this would be a great one for an identifier. If you get like this, and spore prints aren't necessarily necessary, but it doesn't hurt. It's, you know, especially if you're in the beginning, like 90% of the time, you're not going to need a spore print. But again, here you can see the cap. You can see this attachment is different than this one. See how that flutes upward? In fact, yeah, the vase-like is very important. Here you can see, and these are all in situ too. So if I'm identifying this and you didn't remember what tree you saw, look at these. What are these? Are those pine needles or are those oak tree leaves? Well, they're oak tree leaves, so that's very helpful for identification. Oh, well, this is moss. So that's really helpful for identification purposes. This one here is on a stick. So there you go. Just by having it in situ, it narrows it down a lot. Now, amanitas are a whole special animal when it comes to using photography for identification, because they're a little bit more complicated than most gilled mushrooms, and a lot of people are very into it. So it has more, it still needs more research, but it has a lot more research in some groups. So you definitely want to get the cap, stipe, texture, and detection, because the texture on the cap is important. And I'll show you in the later photos. You have,
What do you mean by stipe?
oh, I'm sorry, stipe is like the stem.
Okay.
Like the stem, the thing that like pops up the cap. So the texture of it and how it attaches to the cap. The annulus ring, or lack thereof, is very important. Vulva, that is very, very important with Amanita. In situ pics. Habitat, very, very important. And growth level and nearby Amanitas at different stages is very, very important. Also, proper lighting. Do not oversaturate, do not like edit them all beautifully. Like, oh, it's gorgeous, and you crank up the saturation and make it like, it's a gorgeous photo, and I love it, but I don't know what it is. Because you've changed the colors, and the colors are very important in identification. So you can see here some of these pictures. Like this is a very good one. You can see the attachment. You can actually see the texture of the gills here. See how like it's got like these, this one's lacking a skirt. You see it's lacking that annulus ring? So that shows you something. Look at this base. Do you see that base compared to this base? You see that vulva and how it's sticking to it? But this one's kind of flippity. That's important. The cap, do you see this cap? Do you see how warty it is? And again, here, you can see, that's this one. You can see a zoomed in photo of it. I like to do this for Amanitas because it is important to see that in some species. Again, here's the ring. And look at that base. When I was talking about growth stages, if you see some nearby that look pretty much identical, it's not always 100%, but it does help. You can see in a situation, they look like, this looks like it's going to be this, right? So it's good to see what it looks like as in its youth as compared to an adult, because, or at maturity, because that can be helpful in identification purposes. You can see, I even have it a couple days later. So you can see how the colors changed and how it dried. Very important for Amanita. Learned that recently. All right. Bleats and allies. Now this one, you post on the Bleats Group of America, which is a great Facebook group, by the way, for if you want to know what your bleats are. If you just post like a picture of a bleat, they're going to be like, that doesn't help. They want to know too. They want to know what it is. They're nerds. So help them out, guys. Get that cap, that stipe, get a nice cross section of it if you can. You don't have to cut every single one if they're all the same one. Just get one cross section. Staining, you can do when you first start cut it, when you first make a mark on it, to after like 30 seconds, what it looks like. The mycelium and pore surface and cap connection. So you can see here, look at the pores here. See how tight those pores are? Look at these guys. This is extremely important with identification. You can see that attachment there. This is particularly important with certain bleats because of, when you see the netting here, the color of the netting is important. This staining is important. You see how this is staining black? That's my son. He put his name on it. You could see here the color it turned into. So this one here is actually, the same. No, stay. This is actually the same species. It's just, right, because I cut it in half, and but if you were to just go on this, it would look black right on the pore surface. And yeah, so bleats are weird. It's important to get that. See, I have my in situ pic over here. This is another one of, this is actually, I believe this is a different species than this one, but they're like both Neobolitas. Now here, look at this. Do you see how thick and pitted this is? That is very important to get for this particular one. Do you see these little yellow drops on it? It's called guttation. Guttation is the liquid that a mushroom will exude as it's growing. It's usually emitting that whenever it's like going through a fast growth phase. And the color of it is important. This particular species is a frost bolete. I'm not even going to butcher the Latin name for you. I'll say frosty eye is the last part, because I can do that one. But this color is indicative of that species. The pore color here, these red tight pores, lots of things in the bolete families will have these red tight pores, but they won't have this yellow guttation. And then you've got these beautiful netting here. Okay, so it's so important for boletes to capture this. And also, everything I'm saying right now, I have a printout. You could take photos, or you can email me. On my information's on our website, and I will email it to you if you were interested in this, just having the presentation. Yeah?
I have a silly question regarding the guttation. If it's not unusual for flower photographers to carry a spray bottle of water, not a good idea for mushroom identification?
Not for identification purpose. That would, you know, if you want to take a pretty photo, you can just, if you want to enhance your photo, make it look gorgeous, sure. Because, I mean, it is so pretty, isn't it? It's just, oh.
But at the same time, I'm assuming the guttation sometimes has color.
Exactly. So if you spray it with water, they're going to be like, well, that gutation's clear. That can't be that. That's strange. I mean, we're not there, so you got to help us out, guys. So fungi without gills or pores. There's a ton of them. This weirdo here, this is a Zolaria. Obviously, you can see having this part's important. You get that stipe. Look at how the coloration changes up to here. When you got these like ascos here, getting the outside color and the inside color if you can. See how this is a little bit fuzzy-ish. If you're posting it to iNat, you might not be able to take photos of some of these things. So also noting them. There's like a little note section. Make sure you note that. Getting the full fungi is important. I think I actually put this slide before what I should have. So, whoops. But yeah, getting the full photo. So there's actually an insect here. And the fungi is growing out of it. And that helps with identification purposes. And eventually, when we get a little bit better with our cordyceps, I'm sure host species. Well, host species is important already, but figuring out what the host species is will be even more important to when we narrow down some of these things. See, there it is. That's what I wanted to have first. All right, so you got to get the top view, side view, because how it comes up, like especially for some Ascomyces, how it pops up out of the wood is important. The spore-bearing surface. They're Ascomyces, so you're like, what is the spore-bearing? Like, look at that. What's the spore-bearing surface on this dude? Like this. But, you know, like, so these are, you know, the spore-bearing surface would, yeah, it's flat, it's not gills, but this will pop up the spores. Same here. Yeah. Cool. The mycelium, that can be helpful, but it's more importantly to get some of these other things, but that can be helpful. Corals. Get those tips, baby. Those tips are important. If you can zoom in and get some macro on them somehow, and I'll try to go over that a little bit too. That will help with our corals. So you can see I zoomed in on this one. This is a Redulomyces pacamenensis. See how it's like crazy. It's like a waterfall. Whereas Copelandii would be like straight up and down teeth. This is on a mountain laurel. So you can see this. This is actually a fungi on there. The coloration around it's important. You can see the different those little dots. Sometimes they're, especially when you're doing rust fungi, some people will get really into that, Steve. And now I am too, I love them. But you can, sometimes you need to know coloration because sometimes they'll be yellow, whereas there's a different species that's on the same darn host species that's more orange. So get natural color if you can get it. Again, you can see these tips. You can see how I've got the natural coloration here. I'm showing the tips clearly so that I can, if I need to count, I can. I can see the shape, if they're blunt, if they're sharp. On the auricularia here, the host is very important. We might only get it to auricularia without microscopy because of where we live. But hey, at least we'll know it's auricularia, right? So now this one here, also, see how I have this here? You're thinking, wow, that's a pretty big jelly fungus. This thing was actually like teeny tiny, but I zoomed in on it. So I got this sort of thing, but you need to note that, hey, I zoomed in like wicked crazy to get this. So you need to note, if you do these zoomed in macro shots, you have to note that you did that if you want it identified.
Do you ever use a ruler or some
I do, and this is weird, but I'm going to get a tattoo on my finger of a ruler. Because I'm weird.
I had a question. Would it make sense to like put sort of like a penny guide, you know, just the size?
Absolutely. In fact, I'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, you can see in this particular photo, I'm zoomed in, yes, but you can see the host species as well here. So that's important. Yeah, so just note things like that. Note that this is zoomed in and it's on this host. Crust fungi and polypores. Texture. Texture is so important with these guys. It's often very important to get macro with some of these polypores to get a good diagnosis. And even with all of this, photo-wise, it's often because some of them can be like 20 colors. So like, well, it could be any color, but it looks like this under the scope, so that makes it this. So, but there are some that are pretty definitive by texture, macro. Getting the whole image and the macro. So get like the whole of the being, because I've been known to just like, here's this microscopic image of like the pore. What is this? And they're like, I don't know. I want to see it. So sometimes you gotta get that whole image there. These also can stain. So just take your fingernail, do a little like, I like to do like the number symbol or hashtag symbol, whatever you want to call it. And again, spore-bearing surface, always important. You can see I got them. So this one here, these are all pretty zoomed in, obviously. It helps though, but you can see these teeth help identify this one here, same with this. These got these gorgeous little mazes inside, but there's actually one that's similar that looks like this. And so it's important to note, like, yes, this has got these maze-like structures, but it is soft. It is not hard feeling. So noting the texture in your identification is important. Like, this is soft, this is soft, this is soft. Some of these will be hard. So just make sure you put a note. So again, I'm showing the whole image here. So this is like the top. It looks like, it doesn't even look like a fungus, it looks like a big burl. But then you look underneath and you see these interesting pores. And again, this might be enough, but if I get a zoomed in image of those pores, the shape of them can help in identification. But this may be enough just from noting the host species as well. So polypore specifically, size, top, bottom, pore shape. There may be things that look very similar. If you look in a field guide, because sometimes the field guide, they don't show you the actual, they might say the size, but if you're just looking at a photo, you might like, is that 2 inches or is that 12? So noting the size is important. So this guy here, got a nice top view of it. You can see coloration on the rim. You can see the host species, it's in situ. You can see underneath the color of underneath. You can see that it's got tight pores even though it's far away. You can see the pores are tight. Yeah. Yes.
I know where that is.
Yeah, I got another picture coming up too. So, again, like these gills here, so these are the same species. But because this was aberrant and grew weird, you might be like, what is this weird mushroom I found? But it just fell over while it was growing. So if you see this, but you also see this on the same log, get them both. That helps in identification with it so that we can see, okay, so that's it when it's a mutant, and this is it when it's normal, right? Getting the top view too, I didn't show it here because I was just showing for it, but, getting the top view, of course. In situ, I know I already talked about this, but this is again showing the situation. This is growing on the ground. These are growing on the ground, and like soil, I don't see a bunch of moss around it. These look like deciduous leaves here. That helps, or hardwood. Oh, look at the nice moss here. You can see the cross venation there. Oh, love it. Noting the smell. Don't smell this one. It's nasty. Getting the full fungi. This is again like when you're digging. This is why I recommend digging in some situations. Look at this mycena here. If you just saw it without digging, you'd be like, that's a boring little yellow mycena. But it's actually Mycena crocea, because it's growing from a walnut. And you can actually, if you dig it up, you can get the walnut with it. Like this. You'd be like, oh, what's that? I don't know. But if you dig it up, you get the truffle. This sorry, I'm butchering it. Eridmonziella. You can see how the top is glossy. I have the full photo of it. It's okay to bring some of these back home if you get in situ pics. But you can see the full coloration of the stem. You can see from here how far the root goes in. Even looking at this, I can look at this and I can see that texture must be, a little bit harder. Scale. So you were talking about scale. Even your hand, which is, like we know about how big our hand is. Again, like it can help. Like, oh, look, this old man of the forest was this big. So, like, you can see this Amanita compared. Like, so it's a relatively small. Like, if you look at my hand, that thing's a relatively small Amanita. But if I were just to zoom in on it, you'd be like, whoa, it must be like. But it's actually pretty small. Noting the interesting features. So here, you can see that's actually natural guttation. I did not spray this. It looks like I did, but I saw this and I was like, yes, that's exactly what I heard. And it went all the way down. And if you looked under the gills were not gutating at all, which was really cool. But that's a Pluteus granularis. It's got some veininess to it and very tomentose. So this here is a lacnium. Noticing most lacnium you'll see are white. But I saw this like purple in it and I was like, what? Purple lacnium? What is that? So I found out, like just by taking this photo and putting it on a forum, I learned that there's actually a bacteria that can infect these that causes that. Because I was like, I see nothing in my field guides about a purple lacnium. Or however you say it. See, guttation again. See how this is oozing this beautiful color here? That's the blushing rosette. And you can see the pore texture. But my favorite part about this is that when it's dry, even like advanced identifiers will be like, what's this? I can't figure it out. Note these pores. Yes, it's not always going to guttate. Sometimes it looks like a boring crust fungi. But if you note these pores and you kind of try to imagine what they look like dry, then you'll figure out that that's probably just the blushing rosette. And, she's withered in her old age. That's all. So this Calivia here, you can see it's got these cool little features on top. Like, what is that? dude, you just got 2 mushrooms for the price of 1, because you noted that interesting feature there. These are little Clibia clouds, and they're a parasitic fungi on Clibia. So, also, sometimes you might want to have a photo of John Plischke burning your polypore, because if this one would have bubbled, it would have been Pinacola. But if it didn't bubble, it was Ochracea, and unfortunately it did not bubble, even though he tried. So noting that is important, that you went through that extra effort. See how I was talking about mycelium and how important it is? This mycena was pure white when I found it, completely pure white. But I was like, I looked at the very base and I noticed this teeny tiny bit of blue, and look at how white the stem is here. Now the interesting thing about it is like something like Amica and Subcaerulea, mycena Amica and Subcaeruleans, will have a blue base, but it stays blue. It's not going to stain blue. This thing actually, when I touched the base, it actually turned blue. So noting if the color changes to a blue is important, even with gill mushrooms. So that's that part. Now, I'm sure some of you want to get into this other stuff too. How are we going to get these like weird macros of mycelium? All right. So people think, oh, well, I need a DSLR and these extension tubes, and I need Pringle cans and stuff. But honestly, you can just use your cell phone, and there's little attachments. I mean, you might not get like, perfect clarity around it, and it might not be like the most amazing, but you will get the parts that you need. There's little attachments for your phone. You can just clip right on it, and you can get those zoomed in macro shots just with those. It's like attaching a loop. Do you know what a loop is? A loop is like a little magnifying glass type thing. It's like attaching a loop to your or your camera. So even with just that, you can do it. But if you are lucky enough to be able to find a good deal on one of these things, and you want to get some decent macros, this is just the kit lens here, okay? Now, the more I put, what happened? Now these come apart. The more I put on this, the more magnified it's going to get. Okay? You're going to lose some. You're going to lose some clarity with it, though. So, to make up for that, I left it at home. I have a little. It's just a little +10 diopter, and I put it on this, and then I zoom it in. Actually, I think it's in my car. I'll bring it out so you guys can. I was really tired, and I was just like, which is not good. Don't treat your equipment like I do. So you just put this little thing on there, and then you can put all these extension tubes on there, and you notice how I'm not losing any clarity really with my photos here. By attaching these, and that's because I have that diopter on there too. And it helps kind of fix the issue with that. Now she takes much better when it comes to like, I'm a beautiful mushroom, like a big, beautiful, like normal mushroom, not like these little weird ones I like. She does much better when it comes to like actually taking the photo of the mushroom, like in situ, gorgeous, I'm a mushroom.
Flash, right? Because of that proper lighting that you talked about, because when you're trying to identify a mushroom, it is sometimes, like especially when you're looking at gills and the pores, like to have it real sharp, you do need a lot of light. But that does alter the kind of the atmosphere of the photo. And so Cara kind of focuses on that. And so when you compare actually our photography, it has a very different mood in terms of sort of the colors. And I do edit my photos in Lightroom. I do bump up the saturation a little bit, but
In terms of,
But when
in
you're
terms
doing it
of
for ID,
yes,
you're not doing
no, no, definitely not. That's just for my Instagram. But yeah, I do keep it real though. So that's the thing. That is very important to me because I do like to educate about mushrooms as well. Like everyone probably around here.
You don't bump it up too much.
No, it's not too bad.
You don't make like, you know, pale pink mushroom red.
No. Which you do see on Facebook. There's like this famous one that has like a gradient from like blue to pink. It's an oyster. I always report it. This is fake.
So what kind of macro lens do you use?
So I actually don't have a macro lens. I just have an 18 to 135 millimeter lens.
That's just what this is.
Right. It's just a like regular lens, and you can achieve a lot with the extension tube that Cara has talked about. They're really cheap, like what, $40 maybe?
Dude, I paid 10.
Yeah, there you go.
$10 Amazon.
Yeah, they just allow you, like they don't actually magnify the subject. What it allows you to do is you can actually inch closer with the camera to the subject. That's what it does.
I'm sorry. This is
You go.
All right, so just one time. So, but I'll let you talk right after. So, with the again, she was talking about lighting and stuff, and with hers, keeping things somewhat still is really important too. She was talking to me about putting like a bag of beans underneath your camera because they're maneuverable, but they'll keep it still. That's a great idea for when you're. I mean, when you got like an extension tube like this big out here, that's not very helpful, but we do have, if you're not lazy, like I am, you can do this and you can photo stack too. And there's a site called Combine CP? I don't know, I've never used it because I'm too lazy. So I know the process though. You can take it and you just, every one, you just focus it a little bit different until you get all the depths of field on your mushroom. There's some people who just put it in burst mode and like have the lighting just right, and then they kind of have the focus shift as well. Then I have, okay, so if you don't have this fancy thing here, because these are expensive. This is probably, if I were to buy this now, like $200. I was lucky, and my husband broke this, but I'm handy, and I tore it apart and resoldered some stuff and got it to work. So, but if you can't do that, you can still use this little dinky on-camera flash. And just, you might want to bounce the light a little different. So these Pringle cans, you can adjust this to where you got your, you know, like obviously it's not going to work like that, but you can adjust the shape of this thing to where it'll work for you so that you're still, I have this thing here, back. This thing here to diffuse the light, because if you don't diffuse the light, you can have very harsh, like you know, some really shiny spots, and it might blow out like the cap of the mushroom, and you'd be like, I can't really. The cap looks white. Whereas if you diffuse the flash, it can spread it out. And this would not be good for her kind of photography, because if you look at it, it's zeroing in on your stuff.
What's the cap made of?
This is a Pringles can.
So it's a Pringles cap.
It's a Pringles cap that I made shiny because it was beautiful. I found some pretty tape. And I like to bounce my light with Pringles stuff. So I might go like this and like, look at this. I just literally ripped up some Pringles cans because I'm cheap and poor. And I just bounce it around, depending on what side. You can fold this like this. This helps bounce the light. But this, everyone's like, do you have a ring light? How do you get it to underneath the cap? Because if you're getting these intense photos of mushrooms, like see how you can actually see the stipe? If you just took a picture without a ring light, it's very hard to get it to where it'll show this stipe. So I put this underneath, tinfoil Pringles, and it'll take my flash, even if I just did it like this, it'll still take my flash. The light will bounce from here up onto it. You might need to angle it depending on the size of the stipe. But yeah, and I do the same thing when I'm putting it on for like slime molds and stuff. I just get in there. Now, if you look at like Alison Pollock, how she does those amazing, amazing photos of slime mold, you could get an attachment for your camera. It's like 15 bucks. The attachment's cheap. But the other thing that she puts on there isn't so cheap. She actually gets a lens objective, like a microscope lens objective, and puts it on the end of her thing to get those intense. And then she photo stacks. So she's getting that, you know, she's getting all the depths of field, because this is just taking, it's like almost like a CAT scan. Like you're just getting a slice of what you see. You're not getting the depth of the image. So my photography, you're not going to get the depth of the image. See how this is blurry here? I did my own like little stupid Photoshop thing where I like overlapped it and blurred and like, so you could see it with the base too. So I did do one, but it wasn't with a program. It was just me messing around. But you could, if I did it with the stacking, you would be able to see all that vegetation there. And I have a pointer and I'm using my hand. You would be able to see all those depths of fields. So depending on how into this you want to get, depending on if you want to get into it for just the beauty to like she does some amazing stuff. I'm a big fan. And like in the identification, if you want to get into it for identification or the beauty of it, yeah, and sometimes you do need to edit some things to get them a little brighter, because say you're in really dark light, but every time you're pumping your flash up, it's, even with the diffusers on it, it's just blowing out your image and making everything dark in the background. You might need to adjust things like aperture and speed. So for these images, my aperture is wide open. I have it super wide open, which a lot, like in her situation, she wouldn't do that. I have it wide open, and I have my speed low. So I can pick up more light. But again, I'm compromising because I'm having I'm darkening the outsides of the image that way. But I like it because I like the way it emphasizes the mushroom. It's like, you know, like, you know.
It's like almost studio lighting, right, for the mushrooms.
Yeah, that's what I'm focusing on more so than the background. So I do like a lower speed and a higher aperture, but if I'm doing that lower speed, you need a good flash for the lower speed. If you don't have a good flash, you just have your camera flash, you can bounce it, but it's not a very strong flash. So you're going to need to bump up that speed a little bit on it. And if you have a camera on your phone, you just let your camera do the trick on that. And you can take some great photos. Yeah, it's amazing just how, like, you know, having it like this and like this, and you know, having maybe like going like this even will just completely illuminate it. Yeah, you might look nuts.
My forehand might be helpful sometimes.
But
Forehand might be real helpful sometimes.
exactly. If you can grow an extra hand or a child,
Right.
small children are very good.
When you say lower speed, you mean slower, like a half-second exposure or something like that?
I wouldn't say that slow. I would say like I do like 100, which is pretty low. It really does depend on the lighting too. So like, let me go in my manual, see what I have currently set at.
Did you say 150 seconds then?
Yeah, like so I have it on, right, I have one, I wouldn't go any lower than 100. Unless you're doing night photography, which I can get into that too. If you guys want me to talk about night photography, like bioluminescent stuff. Anyone interested? Yeah. With that, there's actually, I wish I could show you. There's actually a function on this. You keep going down past 1/15, past 1/8, past 1/4, past all these weird little things I don't know. You keep going, and you get to bulb. You need a tripod. You cannot be lazy. If you want good night photography, and you can't be lazy. You cannot be lazy. You need a tripod, and you need this. That's why I brought this. This is a remote trigger. There are much better wireless ones. I'm cheap. This was only $10. So what you do, you don't want you also, like how I crank up my aperture as well, or you want your f-stop down. So right now my f-stop's on like f29, okay? Yeah. But that's why I can get all of it. You want your f-stop down to like, I was able to get it down to as low as like, as high as like 6 or 7. That's adequate. You might get better if you have it, lower, but you're going to lose your focal length when you do that. So you're going to have it like, when I say focal length, it's going to be really, really clear right here, and then it's going to be blurry all around here. So the lower your f-stop, blurry it's going to be around here, and the less space you'll have. Yeah. So I'm trying to speak in like how if I wanted to talk to me, like his depth of field, people are, I don't know depth of field, but like, yeah. So if you have a very high f-stop, you'll be able to get more out of it. But yeah, so then you would take your image, click it, because you don't want this bumped. You want to put it on, if you can put it on like concrete in like a light box of some sort. You can even make your own light box. My husband, for years, he used what are those things called? Those little cubes you put in your shelves. There's a white one, and you throw stuff in it. Literally, the cat would jump in it all the time. And we'd have to. Anyway, we just literally used like this little cloth bin that you would put in your cube storage stuff. Take that out, and that was enough to, soften the light around. But you put it in that. It has to be pitch black for if you want just the fungi. If you want like some background ambience, if you're doing it outside, obviously you can't make it pitch black, but you want it darker. 8 minutes. So you have to push this, and then you click it up, and like walk away for 8 minutes. And I'm ADD, so that's like 3 hours for me. So find something to do, and you'll be good to go. Any questions? No. Any questions?
The only comment was, I was going to say, is learning on your digital SLR how to pinpoint your focus so that you're actually selecting where you want to focus on those images. Because even whenever, if you want to do the stacking, even if you want to do, an artistic composition, knowing, not asking your camera to say, arbitrarily focus on this. Just because you're in 29 doesn't mean that it's gonna give you,
Right. I'm actually so glad you mentioned that too, because when you're doing these macros, and you have extension tube out, I shut my autofocus off. I really don't like to use the autofocus that much, although this new camera's got a much better autofocus, I have to say. But with the slime molds, micro fungi, and things like this lacnium, because these lacnium here are probably like a millimeter. So that's all they are, is like one little millimeter across. So you're going to want to not have it on autofocus, because even though these do actually autofocus, it's not going to get where you want it. It has no idea what you want. I know what I want. You know what you want. So you're just going to have to, get that spot, like maybe move it back and forth. That's another reason why it's so hard for me to use a tripod, is because getting it set up takes so long to get it where you want it. I tried. Ain't nobody got time for that.
At the other end of things, if you're taking pictures where you're trying to freeze a hummingbird wings, or you're trying to freeze hummingbird moth wings, and you're setting it at 1 billion thousandth of a second, you can't use autofocus either. But there, you kind of have to hope the darn thing doesn't fly away when you're getting everything set up.
Yeah. Yeah, and you have like, and like there's different modes. There's like on these things they have like, you know, beginner modes for you. Like I put it on manual because I know what I want. But they have aperture focus. That's sort of what I did, but I don't like their aperture focus. I do it different. And then they have shutter priority, which is the TV, I think. TV shutter priority.
No.
Oh.
The T is hard.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Time variable.
Yeah, exactly. They have like a kids mode on this thing. So like I wouldn't say little kid. I wouldn't give this to a little kid unless you're rich. But yeah. But yeah, they got sports mode. They have a macro mode. So yeah, for beginners, there's some things that'll kind of get you there to somewhat for what you need. Any other questions?